said, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take you along in the kitchen and show you how I'm prepping my homemade snacks for the week. So we go to school twice a week now. I started a hybrid homeschool, which is a very big change for us because we've homeschooled for the last 7 years. But it's been such a blessing. God has blessed this school so much. But we do get out of the house twice a week and go to school. And so we need lunches and snacks and all the things like traditional school on those days for food, but I'm not willing to compromise in our health department. So on a good week, if I have the time, I really try hard to get some snacks made up as an added treat, and I do something different every week. So a lot of times in a pinch, I'll just pop some popcorn in the morning, put some butter over it, and they'll take that as their snack in the morning time. They bring a lot of leftovers. I try really hard to always have homemade bread made. That's just something that's always been a part of my schedule. And so they'll do sandwiches if they don't want. If you follow any of my Azure Standard orders, you'll know that I also buy those spinach wraps. I can't remember the brand, but they're on Azure Standard. They're gluten-free, and so they like those as sandwiches too. So if I don't have bread, they'll do that, or a rice cake with meat and cheese satisfies them as well. So they have some options that are quick in the pantry, but they do really like it when I make them some homemade snacks. So I'm gonna show you, there's 3 things I'm gonna make today. I also got some stuff prepped in the fridge that wasn't anything that I needed to make homemade. I just needed to prep it so it's ready for them to go. Some of those things were beef sticks. I took them out of the freezer, defrosted them. I sliced them in half because they're long and put them in a jar with a lid and a ring. They'll keep really well for the week, probably even longer than that, and they can pull out of that for a snack. That's on the shelf in the fridge. So we have one shelf in the fridge that is our snack shelf, and I try and keep whatever they can grab quick on that shelf, and I've done that since they were little, so they know that's the snack shelf. I have strawberries and I have grapes already cleaned and in the jars, so I have them in jars with a lid and a ring. Here's a little tip for you: fresh fruit stores so much better and lasts longer if you put them in glass jars with the lid and the ring and store them in their fridge. They will last for over a week. So I always do that. Those are prepped and on the snack shelf. I have a jar of applesauce that I canned that are on the shelf that they can use and bring with them, and they like to put a little bit of cinnamon on that. And I have hard-boiled eggs on the shelf already ready to go in the fridge. Now I'm gonna get some pantry staples ready for them to take to school. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make Cheez-Its or goldfish crackers, but we're gonna do it in the healthy way, and we're gonna do it gluten-free. And these things are definitely a treat for the kids because I don't make them often. Very easy to make. You just have to roll them out, and that takes time. I'm gonna do these ones first because it does take an hour that needs to be in the fridge to chill the dough. And so let's get these started first before we make the other things. So the recipe calls for 1 cup of gluten-free all-purpose flour or all-purpose flour. I'm actually gonna double this. I have 3 kiddos and 1 cup wouldn't last very long. Sometimes I triple it, but today, for time's sake, because the more dough you make, the more you have to roll out and cut out. And so I'm just going to do 2 cups. Now I'm gonna do the recipe calls for a ½ teaspoon of salt. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon since I'm doubling it. And add it in. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can go ahead and use a bowl with a hand mixer. I just use my stand mixer for everything. I'm gonna take a spoon here and just stir that salt around. All right, now I have a whole ½ cup of butter here. The recipe calls for 3 ounces. And since I'm doubling it, that would be 6 ounces. Well, a whole stick is only 8, so I'm just gonna add the other 2 in. It'll just make it a little butterier, which they won't mind. All right, so I sliced it into cubes, and now I'm gonna take my pastry cutter here, and I'm just going to work it into the flour until I have pea-sized pieces. Okay, I'm gonna put my paddle back on. And then I have 16 ounces, the recipe calls for 8 ounces of finely shredded cheese. This is just my raw white cheddar cheese that I get on Azure Standard. You can use any cheese you want. If you wanted to use a pepper jack to give it a little kick, you could do that. You could do orange cheddar. I always do white cheddar. And I'm gonna add that in, and I'm gonna turn my stand mixer on just to let it get incorporated into the flour. Okay, now I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of water for the original recipe, 6 tablespoons because I'm doubling it. Now here's the thing, do not add more water. Let this go at least for 4 minutes whipping before you decide that it needs more water. I've never had to add more water. It just sometimes takes a while, but you do not want to put too much liquid into this where your crackers will not withstand it. So I always turn it on and I let it go for a very long time. Immediately it'll start to get a little bit wet, but if it's still powdery, don't resist the urge to add more water. Let your stand mixer or your hand mixer, if you're doing it by hand, let it just do its work. As it's going, if it's been like 3 or 4 minutes and it's still not coming together at all and it's very, very powdery, then you can add a half a tablespoon at a time of cold water to have it come together. But like I said, I don't have to do that very often, if ever. I don't know if I've ever had to. So just don't be too quick to add more liquid when you think, oh, it's not coming together. It will, just take some time. So we're gonna let this stand mixer go and do its thing so that the dough can start to form. Okay, so it has all incorporated and it's no longer a powder. I just kind of take it and form it into a dough. Like I said, you don't want to add too much water. This is next to impossible to do. I can smell my raw cheddar in here. All right. So I'm gonna take it. I have a piece of plastic wrap right here. You could do parchment paper or something else if you don't want to do plastic. And I'm gonna put it in here and wrap it up. My whole dough ball, and I'm gonna stick it in the fridge, let it chill for an hour before we roll it out and bake it. Okay, now that our dough is chilling, we're gonna go ahead and get some granola made up. So this is actually not my recipe. I do have a granola recipe on the blog that I can link, but this is my friend, one of my dearest friends' recipe from her blog, Dear Mark 23, and I actually like hers better than mine. So I'm gonna make hers today. It actually makes a lot of granola. So it calls for 7 cups of rolled oats. I'm using gluten-free rolled oats here. But you can have this if you don't need that much. I'm gonna make it all because we like to use this as cereal too. So just pour some milk over it, it's really good. So I'm gonna do 7 cups of rolled oats. I'm gonna do 3/4 a cup of oat bran. I get this on Azure Standard along with these rolled oats. And then it calls for 2 cups of nut of choice. So you just want to chop up a bunch of nuts. So I'm actually going to throw in some almonds and some pecans and probably some cashews all into a bag, and I'm going to pound it until it's nice and crumbled. Okay, I have my assortment of nuts here. I got cashews, I got pecans and almonds in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and take this meat pounder and pound it until it's nice and crunched up. Alright, I think I got chopped up to the sizes that I want, and I'm gonna go ahead and add it to my bowl here. Didn't break up, well, you can break them in half if you'd like to, but you don't have to. That's up to your preference. And really the 2 cups is up to you as well. So if you wanted to do more than 2 cups, you're definitely welcome to do that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a stir. I'm gonna add in 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and a teaspoon of vanilla. I never measure vanilla. I always just put a little bit in. All right, mix this all around. And then the liquids for your granola is going to be coconut oil and real maple syrup. So you're gonna want 3/4 cups of coconut oil, and you're going to want 1 cup of syrup. You're gonna wanna go ahead and melt your coconut oil, so I'm gonna go do that now, and then we'll add in our maple syrup to be able to mix all together over the top of this. I heated my coconut oil up on the stove, and now I'm gonna pour in 1 cup of pure maple syrup. I'm gonna stir that all together, and then I'm going to dump it right over top. I'm gonna mix this all up, and I have 2 baking pans or baking sheets here ready to go. I use the USA pans. I don't need to oil them or anything. There's plenty of oil in this actually. But I have my ovens preheating to 250 degrees. These are gonna bake for 45 minutes to get them nice and golden and crispy into granola. But you're gonna wanna check it every 15 minutes. So once they're in the oven, don't go start another project. Or if you do, start another project close so that you can check it every 15 minutes. So I'm going to dump these into 2 sheet pans. You can do it thicker and just do 1, but I want my granola to be really crispy. So I'm gonna do 2 of them. So I'll split them. And then I just spread it out into a single layer on my baking sheet here. And now these are ready to go into the oven, and I'm going to set my timer for 15-minute increments. So I won't set it for the full 45. I just know I need to set it for 3 15-minute increments. And each time it goes off, I will stir them up a little bit so that they get brown on all sides, and then flatten them back out, and they'll get nice and crispy right here on my baking sheet. So let's get these into the oven. Okay, so we got our granola in the oven, baking away. We got our dough chilling in the fridge, and now we're going to make up double chocolate muffins. But these are a healthy kind. They're naturally gluten-free. They use coconut flour and all good healthy ingredients. So we're going to start with 1/4 cup of almond butter. Now you can do almond butter or you can do peanut butter, whichever one your family likes. I do them with almond butter just so that if there's any peanut allergies, I know it's safe for everybody. And I just get the almond butter brand from Costco. You're gonna do 4 eggs. You're gonna do 1/3 cup of honey. So this is your sweetener in the recipe. And you're gonna do a splash of vanilla. All right, now I'm just going to mix this all together. It does make it easier if you use a whisk. Okay, and then I'm going to add in 1/4 cup of coconut flour, 1/2 cup of cocoa powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, just a dash of salt. I don't really even measure it. And a dash of cinnamon. Now you're going to whisk this all together until it's smooth. I have fed these mini chocolate chip muffins to people that don't have to be gluten-free, that don't necessarily care about their health, and they're like, these are so delicious, they're really good. So you can feed them to all kinds of people and they're really good. You can also add in some chopped walnuts or pecans or something like that if you like a little added crunch to your muffins. My kids don't, so I don't typically do that. Once it's nice and smooth and all of the baking powder and soda and all of the cocoa powder is not clumpy, then I usually discard the whisk. And I add in some mini chocolate chips. We are almost out. Now I'll take my spoon and I'll just fold these in. Now I have 2 mini pans here of muffin pans that have parchment paper sheets in them. You can do this either way. You can go ahead and just do it straight into your muffin tins and just oil them really well, or you can do it with the parchment paper liners. You want to try and get them just I'm making a mess, 3/4 of the way full. So I'm going to fill all of these. Okay, I have my muffins over there just in the pan. I'm waiting for my oven since I have my granola still in the ovens. And then I went ahead and took out our goldfish cracker dough and we're gonna get this rolled out. So it is a little bit hard to work with right off the get-go, but it does get easier as you go. The best way to do this is to do it between 2 pieces of plastic wrap. You can flour a surface, but then it really leaves a floury taste, I don't know, on them, and we don't really like that. So the best way we found to do it is to just put it in between 2 pieces of plastic wrap. You could also do it with parchment paper, but plastic wrap stays better on the counter and doesn't slide around. Makes it a little bit easier to work with. And then you just roll it flat. I took a little bit out to make it a little bit easier because you do want them to be somewhat thin. Otherwise you're gonna have a hard time getting your cracker to crisp at all. We don't care if it's like super crispy, but we also don't want it super doughy. So we try and get it as thin as possible. Another easy way to do this is if you were to roll it out in between parchment papers and take a pizza cutter and just cut it into crackers. And that would make it really fast and simple. Since I have some time, I'm gonna go ahead and cut them into little goldfish crackers because I have a little cookie cutter like that, and the girls will think it's really fun, but you don't have to do, I mean, you can save time and not do that. All right, so once you have it thin, we're gonna go ahead and cut it out. I actually, since the granola is on the baking sheets, I'm just gonna set them off to the side and cut all of them out, and then that way when my baking sheets are free, I can put them on and then I can bake it. All right. Now I'm just gonna cut them, and they'll make little goldfishes. You just keep going through. Like I said, to make this really simple and easy, you can just do it without cutting it up. You can just use a pizza cutter and make them into crackers. And I've definitely done that, and they taste the same, and the kids like them just the same. These, they just get excited when you cut something out into a fun shape. Okay, so the granola came out, and I have it over there cooling on the stove. I put the muffins in at 350 for about 15 minutes. I'll be watching them. My oven cooks kind of hot, so I ended up doing away with all that parchment paper inserts because they were collapsing in when I was trying to put the batter in, and so I just ended up spraying my pans and putting them in. So I'm gonna watch them pretty closely because you don't want them to burn, and my oven cooks kind of hot. So it's usually for those mini muffins anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, so I'll start watching them at 12. Once this granola is completely cooled, I'll put it into a container, and then I'll wash those pans and get all of my goldfish crackers that I've been cutting out. Again, the goldfish crackers, because I have the time today is why I'm doing it, but you do not have to take the time to do this. I also doubled the recipe, which gave me a lot more dough than just a single recipe. But when you have 3 mouths to feed, then one recipe doesn't, I want them to last for the week, so I needed more than just a normal recipe. So I'm continuing to work through all of these, and we'll go ahead and finish our muffins, and then I'll put these in. These will bake at 350 as well for about 10 minutes. They do not take very long. It really depends on how thin you rolled your dough. If you roll it pretty thin, then it doesn't take long at all. If you do thicker ones, then it'll take just a little bit longer. So you'll have to stay and watch those closely too. But these are all of the snacks that I'll have for this week. I gave you some ideas for some homemade snacks. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video. I send out one new video every single week. Jump on over to the blog. I'll link these in the description as well, but these recipes are also on the blog. Well, this recipe is on the blog. The granola one, I will link my friend's blog where that recipe came from, and I don't think I have these chocolate chip ones on the blog yet, but it might be something I'll have to soon. But I hope this video was helpful in giving you some ideas of some homemade snacks for lunches or for school, and I hope everyone has a great week this week coming up. I'll see you next time. Take care.